What foreclosure means in ordinary life. Brought to you by yourlegaleg.com, your advantage if you're being sued by debt collectors. Foreclosure is designed to allow for possession or repossession of a property that was used to secure a debt that was subsequently unpaid. The possession or repossession, however, is just for the purposes of causing the property to be sold. It's always auctioned as a result of a foreclosure. Most often, people think of foreclosure as getting kicked out of your house, and in many situations that is an appropriate understanding. In reality, however, foreclosure addresses ownership rights rather than just possession, and it's certainly possible, and actually often happens, that a house is foreclosed and sold on, and the person who had been owning the house becomes a renter. We don't think of it very often, but one of the great inventions of English law was the division of property into different property interests or rights that could coexist in the same property. The state owns physical property in one way, the landowner in another, and the tenant also has certain ownership rights, for example. If the landowner is married, both spouses will have rights in the property, and it's also possible to divide the rights up in many other ways too. Another form of coexisting rights in property is the way the same property could be owned by you but subject to a mortgage and also various sorts of liens, and these are all rights to the property. It's with the mortgage and liens that we're mostly interested here because these can be foreclosed on. It's also worth remembering that while most people, including the courts, only think of purchase money mortgages, the mortgage you take out in order to buy your house, when they analyze foreclosure, there are other ways liens can be placed on your house. By the state for taxes or judgments, just to name two, and all liens can be foreclosed on. Mechanically, what happens is that the foreclosing party causes the property interest to be divided and distributed, and the way that is accomplished is by selling the property and splitting up the money according to the priority of interests. There's a definite hierarchy of interests, and the higher interests must be completely satisfied before the lower interests get anything. Eventually, if every interest is satisfied and money is left over, this would go to the nominal owner of the property. Or to put it another way, being the property owner means that you get whatever is left after all the other interests are paid off. You're entitled to the equity, or overage, as it's called in foreclosure. But usually, if there's not enough money to cover all the secured interests, you will still owe the secured party's money personally and could be sued for the deficiency. Let's consider two examples. Owner A and B each own a house worth $100,000 in the open market. That's what it sells for. That's the only way you know what a house is worth on the open market, is because it actually does sell for that. Owner A has the following liens against the property: a purchase money mortgage of $35,000, a home equity loan of $10,000, and a mechanic's lien of $1,000. A's balance sheet looks a little bit like this then. Note that he has, or she has, $54,000 in equity. Owner B has the following interests against the property, in this order. The order of liens is beyond the scope of this video, but it can make a big difference, both because the order is assigned by law and according to timing, sometimes. A purchase money mortgage of $110,000 in B's case. The house is underwater because the loan remaining is more than the house is worth, and obviously that happened a lot in the years 2000 to 2010 or so. I mean, that was a rampant situation. And he also has a home equity loan of $10,000 and a mechanic's lien of $1,000, just like A. B's balance sheet then looks like this. And notice that he's $21,000 in the hole, or has negative equity. If neither one of them can pay off the purchase money mortgage, it goes into default and is foreclosed. Here's what happens. And I might add that we're interested here in what happens legally and not with the actual way it happens, although this is often a crucial detail, as failure of the forecloser is, if they fail to follow correct procedures, it often means that you can stop it from happening. So we're just talking about what happens legally here and not, physically or mechanically. A loses possession of the house and all security interests in the property are extinguished. The money is enough for the mortgage, and that is subtracted and given to the bank. Because the home equity loan was secured by the house, the foreclosure breaches the contract with the lender. It intervenes legally in the foreclosure, demands its money, and gets paid again before anything goes to A. Because the lien was subject to the other agreements, it only gets paid afterward, if there is, as in this case, money to pay it. And again, this is before A gets anything. In B's situation, it's a little simpler because the bank gets all the money, and the lender and lien holder, the home equity lender and the lien holder, are left with claims against B, but no property as security. Their security interests in the house are extinguished. They're wiped out, and chances are good they'll lose everything that they had lent. They could sue B and get a judgment against him, unless, in the case of the home equity loan, the loan was a non-recourse loan. You've probably heard of those. It means that the lender can only go to the collateral to get its money, and can't sue the person that got the debt. That doesn't happen with liens, obviously. What if, instead of not paying the mortgage, A and B had failed to pay the home equity loan off? That happens sometimes, and in that situation, the home equity lender could foreclose on the loan. Lower level security interests can foreclose on the loan, in other words. It would also be conceivable that any other person with an interest in the property, including the mechanic, might take some action to intervene in order to protect its interests, although in B's case especially, this is not likely. But the crucial point here is that all of these interests that are here, the mortgage, the lien, and the other security interests, they're all considered property rights of equal importance to the homeowner's right to the property. The bank will get all the money in any case, and in A's case, of course, the home equity lender will do fine, but in B's case, the home equity lender will get nothing, even though it's the one that foreclosed. And this explains why debt collectors rarely foreclose on a house. It will usually cost them money, but get them nothing. But that isn't to say that they couldn't, or that it would never make sense for them to do so, or to threaten to do so. And that's because people will take extraordinary actions to try to protect their house. Debt collectors know that, of course, and so sometimes they will threaten, and sometimes I guess they will, in fact, foreclose on a judgment if they can get it. Protect what's yours, and don't let the debt collectors rip you off. If you like this video, please like it officially and share it with people who could use it. That helps other people find it, and helps other people understand what they need to know. YourLegallega.com